I'm sure by now, if you ever use Facebook at all, you've probably seen the LADbible edit of a couple of our earlier videos on the channel that came out earlier in this week. If you haven't, I'll put a link to it down in the description below so you can go and check it out if you want to anyway. But you're actually going to see the whole thing as part of this video because I thought it's been 3 years since the first part of this video. This seems like a pretty good opportunity to react to what happened in that video and give my thoughts on where we are a little bit further down the line. If that interests you, if you are new here to the channel as a result of the LADbible video, please make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn notifications on, leave a nice big thumbs up on this video as well. And I will, at the end of this video, be giving my thoughts on some of the comments that we received over on Facebook as well, but I'll save that until after I've reacted to the video itself. For those of you who are regular viewers, I know this isn't my normal background. I am in the middle of a total studio renovation. It's not a renovation, I'm moving the furniture around and assembling some new furniture, but that's why I've not got my normal backdrop behind me because it's not there at the moment. Everything is changing. There'll be a video on that coming up in the next couple of weeks as well once I have finished the job. But what I need to do now is jump over to Facebook. I know I'm officially on a 1 month off social media thing, but I think I'm allowed to do this because otherwise I wouldn't be able to make this video. So if it's work related, I think we're good. Let's head over to Facebook and check out the video. So here goes then.
Bye, Daddy. Bye-bye.
Right, we're going to Grandad's.
No, Grandad.
Firstly, the title that they've put on the screen there, I would say a lot of this is more of a struggle with his anxiety. It was anxiety that was a real big deal at the time. Little lad overcomes struggles with autism in the best way possible, I guess. But it was very much a work in progress, and I think it was anxiety more so than autism. But you know, they've got to get the clicks in, and to be fair to them, I think they're closing in on 2 million views. So clearly, the good people of LADbible know how to get the clicks in.
Go home.
You're not going home. We're going to Grandad's.
No, Grandad.
Yes, Grandad's.
No.
It's my dad's birthday today, so we're going to head over there, give him a present, have some dinner. It's freezing cold, but he only lives around the corner, so we shall be walking around there. Maybe we might come back and fetch the car halfway through. We've made it round the corner. He's decided he doesn't want to come. This could end up what would be a normal 5-minute walk. Could be a rather long trip.
Oh, we're nearly there. No. Come on. Come on, hold my hand. Do you want to go to church afterwards? Do you want to go home afterwards? You just want to go home. You don't want to go to church today then? Do you want to go home?
I know I said I'd get into the criticisms we've had afterwards, but I guess I need to address bits as we go through as well. Because one of the things that none of this is a lot of people. The feedback has generally been overwhelmingly positive. There's like a handful of a few people amongst literally thousands, 2.3 thousand comments. There's probably been a small handful, less than 20 negative comments and criticisms. And I just want to, as ever, focus on the negative. But one of the things that is a common criticism is that we were only worried about ourselves and getting him to do what we wanted and weren't concerned with what he wanted to do. And I think my response to that is, yeah, because that's life. I think some people have this, frankly, bizarre attitude that just because he's autistic, he should be allowed to do whatever he wants, whenever he wants, no supervision, no consequences. And that's just not reality. He might enjoy himself a little bit more at the time, but it's not preparing him for adult life. It's not preparing him for independence. And it's nuts to do that. So we were going to my dad's as a family, and he's part of that family. To me, it would be wrong to leave him at home. It would have been wrong at this point to say, okay, fine, we won't go, because he's going to have lots of things in his life that he doesn't want to do, and he needs to learn how to do them, and that's part of what this is.
Yes, church.
And then we have to walk.
No,
to Grandad.
Granddad's first, then church.
No Grandad, no Grandad.
No church, maybe. I'm sorry.
We're going back home.
No, we're not going back home now.
And we're going home. Bye-bye.
We're not going home, we're going to Grandad's.
No Grandad.
Right, we're not going home. Should we go and get in the car and go to the Grandad's in the car?
No.
Well, we're going to Grandad's.
And we're going to walk a little bit.
the other context as well to remember, of course, is this was right in the middle of school refusal. This was when everything was at its lowest point. So he'd been refusing to go to school for probably about 6 months at this point. This was probably about 2 weeks before I ended up resigning from my job and giving up work as a teacher, because recognising, and this was one of the big things that allowed us to recognise it, just recognising that this wasn't sustainable. We had to change something. But obviously Anna had been at home with him all day, every day for months at this point. She was just around this time having to drop out from uni. So we're all very stressed. This is not the first time something like this has happened. It's been getting worse and worse and worse over a number of months. And this is why I say it's anxiety more than autism, because he wasn't like this until a year before this happened. And he hasn't been like this for years now. We can say, looking back, it's been a couple of years since we've had any kind of incident like this, and all that's changed, really, the main change is that his anxiety is now medicated. He takes Prozac every day. So, again, to say that this is an autism symptom and we should have just let him do what he wanted, I think is just it's a misunderstanding of the situation, which I can understand, because if you haven't got the context, if this is the only exposure to us you've got, you see this as a one-off video and just think, oh, well, that's a bit rubbish. But as part of the bigger story in the grander context, it was, I think anyone in our situation would do what we did and try and get him to go.
You want me to leave you alone?
Okay.
And leave you with Daddy?
Okay.
Yeah, just you and Daddy?
Okay.
No.
I know people, a lot of the positive comments were talking about how calm we were and how they wouldn't have been able to stay calm in this situation. That was the closest I got to not staying calm, because it was during a time when he was being more and more violent, especially towards Anna. She was covered in bruises. I remember she had a massive bruise on her leg where he bit her and properly clamped down his jaw on her leg and caused a huge bruise. He was headbutting, he was kicking, and yeah, I'm not a fan of violence, and that, having him, he's grabbed the back of her hood and a little bit of her hair there, and it's a challenge to stay calm in situations like that, because nobody gets to treat Anna like that or any of the family like that, but when it's someone within the family and when they can't control that they're doing it, the inside of my head as this is going on is a mess.
Let's go, car.
You want to go in the car?
Right, we're not going in the house, we'll go in. But she stayed unbelievably calm. She's just turned around, yeah, okay. I'm not going to react to the fact he's just hurt me and just carry on. Awesome. To the car.
You're not going to walk away and say bye.
You want to walk away and say bye?
And bye-bye to Daddy.
And we're going to go in the car to Grandad's.
Okay.
Right, come on then, let's go in the car.
Come on.
Are we going in the car or are we walking?
Okay, bye.
I'm going to go this way, okay?
No.
Okay. Come on, girl.
Go in the car. Car first. Go in the car. Going in the car, Daddy.
It deserves a mention as well, just how calm the girls are staying, just taking it all completely in their stride. Awesome as well. So they would have been, I think Lucy would have just turned 15 and Amy was 11 when this was going on. So they stayed calm and it's awesome. In fact, Amy might have been younger than 11.
See.
Off there, off there.
Shall we go in the car? Okay, let's go to the car.
Right.
Go car.
We're nearly... The other danger we've got while all this is going on, and you saw a little bit of it just there, the thing that we're constantly worried about is if he just steps out in front of a car, because he has no concept of danger. You saw him swerve off to the left there. If there's a bus, this is a bus route. If there's a bus coming along as he's swerving off to the side, it's always something we're having to be aware of, that he could just swerve out into the road at any moment. So that's why you see me sort of strafing as he moves to the side. I'm moving across to the side as well, because I'm always ready to sort of dive forward, put my arm out and stop him from going into the road.
Are you there now, Andy?
Okay, no car. Okay, walking away. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye, Daddy. Bye-bye.
Right, we're going to Grandad's.
No, Grandad, I'm going home.
You're not going home, we're going to Grandad's.
No, Grandad.
Yes, Grandad's.
No. Bye-bye. I'm walking away.
We left home at 5. It's now 5:16.
Shout out to my old Fitbit.
It's a 3 or 4 minute walk if we just go straight there. So once we've got this done today, once he's used to this being part of his routine again, 2 weeks time, no problem at all. It's all because we've had those 3 weeks where he was expecting to come and we didn't. So now we have to completely re-establish the routine again.
And that's really important to take into account as well. We have gone to we don't do it so much now because everyone's a little bit older. But at that point, we had gone to my dad's every other Sunday for years. He was completely used to it as part of his routine. There'd never been an issue with him going before, which is why we knew he could go. A few people said, why didn't you just drive? It's stupid walking. Well, we always walked because it's 3 or 4 minutes away, and we'd done it for years. So the fact that we're walking and the fact that we're going, none of this is unusual. The issue is my dad's birthday is in early February, so we'd, I guess, missed a couple in January for whatever reason. I know his birthday falls exactly 2 weeks after Lucy's, so perhaps the previous one we were doing something for Lucy's birthday. Maybe 2 weeks prior to that we were still doing New Year's, Christmas stuff. 2 weeks before that would have been Christmas. So we've missed 3 instances of going to my dad's, so he's out of the habit, and he wasn't very well either, and I think he wasn't, despite us preparing him for it for days. You know how we use his date board and all that kind of stuff to prepare him for what's going on and when. He knew he was going, but he was out of the habit of going, and we knew that we just had to get him back into the habit again and he'd be fine, and he was. 2 weeks later, no problem at all, and he carried on going every 2 weeks, like I say, for years afterwards. It was just this one time was tricky.
Welcome to the wonderful world of autism.
Wish I hadn't said that line, and I wish they hadn't included it in the video, because I think it comes across in a way that I didn't intend it to be at the time. But it was, you got to remember the huge amount of frustration we're all feeling as this is going on, because we don't like seeing Andy in distress. That's awful. We can see he's having a hard time. But at the same time, the world doesn't revolve around Andy. The girls want to see their granddad on his birthday. Obviously, it is his birthday. We all wanted to go and be able to give him a gift. He was looking forward to seeing us. And it was one of the biggest challenges as an autism family, is balancing between the needs of Andy and the needs of everybody else, because it's all too easy. And I think this is where some people lose their way a little bit when they're criticizing. It's all too easy to focus completely on the autistic member of your family at the expense of everybody else. And I think that's just as wrong as mistreating the autistic member of the family. I think you need to find a balance, and yes, it's harder for Andy to find that balance, but it's one of those, like I say, it's preparing him for life. We're not always going to be there, hopefully. If we outlive him, then something horrible's happened. So there's going to come a time in his life where we're not there to prepare him and shield him and protect him. So it would be, in my opinion, worse for us not to prepare him for that future and prepare him for it as early as possible.
I'm having dinner at Grandad's.
Yes, we're having dinner at Grandad's.
No, I'm having dinner at Grandad's. No.
Yeah, we are.
No, you are. Okay, no Grandad's. I have to wait now.
What are you waiting for?
Okay, let's have to wait in the car.
We can't go in the car now. Grandad's house is just there.
Oh, it's this way.
Yeah, we're going to go in the car after Grandad's.
No, Mummy, bye-bye, Mummy. I've got to go walking away. Walking away, Mummy. Okay, walking away, Mummy. Okay, walking away from Mummy. Bye-bye. See you soon. Walking away from Mummy. Bye-bye. Walking away. I'm walking away, Mummy.
You wouldn't believe how hard this is on Anna. This is destroying her every step she's taken towards him, and he's trying to get rid of her. I don't know how she held it together. She was very upset afterwards because she's dedicated her entire life to looking after Andy, and she knows he doesn't mean it. She knows he completely relies on her, but this is awful for her.
Fine, walking away. Mummy, walking away. I'm walking away. Bye, Mummy. I'm going to walking away.
Cuddle?
No.
Should we do coat?
No.
It's chilly.
We're walking away, Mummy.
Oh, don't cry, little man.
Okay, let's walking away. Fine, walking away.
You want me?
No,
Come on.
I'm walking away.
I don't want to walk away. Is
I'm
it you?
walking away now.
No, come on.
Yes.
Granddad's
walking-
is just over there, look.
No, Granddad.
That is Granddad's house. Just there, look, with the white bit.
No.
It's now been close to a 25-minute walk to go 2 streets.
No, just go around the corner over there, baby.
No.
Okay, well, I'll see you later then.
Okay,
What are we waiting for?
I'm waiting.
For what?
We're waiting.
What are we waiting for?
We're waiting. Waity, 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 waity.
See, we have no idea what he wants at this point, do we? I don't think there's anything we can do right now to win. Even if we just went home now, it wouldn't. He'd melt down.
Oh dear, cry! Oh dear! Oh no!
For anyone watching this who's worried, that's not a genuine cry, is it? That's what he does to simulate when other people cry. As you can see, now completely fine. What we saw in the field when there was actual tears and it was silent, that's real crying. That's his fake cry, that is learned behaviour.
No.
Shall I go and fetch the car?
Okay.
Right, you go in, I'll go and fetch the car. Yeah? You go in, I'll fetch the car.
Go to sleep.
Okay.
No, no, it's good.
I'm going to go and get the car then, yeah? And there we have it. It is now 25 to 6. We've got him inside the house, but it's on the condition that I go and fetch the car. So I've now got to go, walk back, fetch the car, drive back, hope he's not ripped the whole house down in the time it takes me to get there and get back again. It's a 2-man job. The days where we could pick him up and carry him and force him to do stuff are long gone. He's too big, too strong, too flaily. I guess, looking back, perhaps we should have taught him or worked on behaviour back then, but when something goes on for 40 minutes, 45 minutes like that, you show me someone who doesn't resort to just picking them up and carrying them if they can. Turns 13 this year. We have never, in 13 years, never even once has anyone given us any training or any help or any advice to how to deal with that kind of situation. It only ever goes so far as just try and get him to do what he's told.
And that is crucial, because one of the other things we've been criticised about is approaching the situation incorrectly, talking to him in the wrong way, doing things that aren't productive to helping him, etc., etc. And yeah, looking back now, after 3 years of working on this and being able to dedicate my time to learning about autism and working with the National Autistic Society and going to the autism show and speaking to loads and loads of autistic people, if that same situation happened again now, yeah, I would handle it differently. We would handle it completely differently. But he was, like I've just said there, 13 years old, and there'd never been any support offered for those kind of situations. And it's not for want of asking. We would always ask anyone. I think at this point we hadn't even got the social worker yet, because we were still kicking up a fuss trying to get a social worker. That's how bad things were. I had to phone the council and basically yell down the phone at them until they gave up and allocated him a social worker. But we'd asked school, we'd asked the doctors, we'd asked every professional we'd ever seen what to do in situations like that. Even things like safe handling. I've never had any training in that. Anna eventually, about a year after this, did go on a safe handling course. But the amount of times I've had to carry him across car parks or, move him places for his own safety or his own dignity, carrying him naked out of a supermarket across a car park just to get him home so he's not naked in public anymore. I still only know how to do that from what I've seen on YouTube and from what I've read. I've never had the support or the training. It's just not there. And yes, we learn more and more all the time, but that exact situation hadn't happened before. Usually when he was like that, we'd be going somewhere a little bit further afield. We'd never had an issue going somewhere within walking distance, going to my dad's house. So it was new and we didn't know what to do. And it's all well and good looking at that with an expert's hat on, saying you should have applied this strategy. Well, it's easy to say if you know what the strategies are. And yes, you could probably say, well, you're his parents, you should have gone out and learnt the strategies. But I was talking to somebody about this week, and if you put yourself in that situation, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. If you don't know there is a strategy, then how do you go and find the strategy? You need someone to help, and the help was never there.
Andy! I need to sit home.
Well, it's now 20 to 7. We lasted in that house 5 minutes after I got back, maybe. We didn't stay for dinner. We managed to give my dad his birthday present. And now I have a confession to make. That noise you may have just heard was because we didn't get to stay for dinner. The girls are still there. This is what I've had to resort to. We have a Domino's on the way. We left the house originally near, an hour and a half ago?
Like 5.
Yeah, just over an hour and a half ago. He's just calmed down now. We got back here, he went up to bed, kicked off massively.
He was completely naked.
He was naked in the car. We had to carry him across the driveway.
Without knowing how to do it safely.
Naked with a blanket round him when we got back, so just ripped off all his clothes in the car. Fingers crossed in 2 weeks he'll be expecting to go to my dad's again, and we'll have a slightly more successful trip.
Love the way they've edited this bit together, by the way. This is top quality stuff. The music, the way they've edited it all, this is the best part of the video.
Exactly a year ago, pretty much to the minute, I stood just here, told you it was my dad's birthday, and then we were going to be walking over there to have dinner, and then everything kicked off. But today, I'm telling you the same thing. It's my dad's birthday, we're about to walk over to his house, give him some presents, have some cake, and fingers crossed, this is going to be a video that shows you the progress that Andy's made in the last year. It's not quite the startling difference we'd have hoped for, because he's tired. We had to wake him up. He's doing his napping in the afternoon thing again that he started doing before Christmas and then stopped when he was ill. And he's tired, but he's cooperating. He'd just rather be in bed. It takes us to walk from my house to my dad's house. This year, about 6 minutes. Last year, over 45, and then we went straight home and had a Domino's. So that, I think you'll agree, is definite progress.
Unbelievably, there's people who don't believe that was progress, and think that it's just a sign that he's now just complying with our orders and still struggling. And yes, he's still struggling. He still doesn't want to do it, but I keep going back to this point. Sometimes you don't get to do what you want, even if you're autistic. And if you think if you're watching this and you don't know who I am or don't know anything about me, and you think that's just me being awful, please bear in mind as well, I'm like a year and a half deep into the autism diagnosis process for myself. Yes, I'm not diagnosed yet, but I expect I probably will be. And I still believe that just being autistic isn't a get out of jail free card. You still have to be able to be part of a family and be able to be part of society, because the alternative is not being part of society, which is awful. yes, I often would rather stay at home and do my own thing. I would love to sit at this desk playing Football Manager rather than going out to a family get-together or something. Yeah, I don't particularly enjoy that kind of stuff. Everyone who's at that kind of stuff knows I don't really enjoy it. But I understand that it's something that I need to do to be a part of the family. So, yes, it's progress, because he's gone from kicking and screaming and getting naked and hurting people to going and just accepting that it's happening. And if we were to cut into more recent trips, he's quite happy to go, and he bobs along and he sits there and does his own thing, and he's completely happy with it now. So to say that all we've done is force him to mask and be compliant is just wrong. What we've done is taught him that going to Grandad's house isn't anything to be afraid of. We've allowed it to develop over time and become an additional safe place, a place he can be comfortable, a place he can relax. You don't get to that point unless you go there in the first place. The first time you go anywhere, he hates it. We took him to the zoo. He hated it. We took him to Alton Towers. He hated it. The first time we went to Disneyland, he hated it. But then we went back and he loved it, because that's how he by default hates everywhere until he knows it, and then he'll make his mind up whether he likes it or not. And now he likes going to Grandad's. And we couldn't have got to that point without going through these steps. So yes, absolutely, this is progress.
You've got presents. What have you got over there?
Wow.
Your toaster in the bag.
It looks like
Yes.
it looks like it's very awkward.
Yeah. It's very shiny.
It's shiny.
Seems somebody's still very tired.
Again, context, he'd had the flu for like 6 weeks at this point. He was just recovering. He was still very poorly. He's still massively underweight. He's not there because he's having some kind of sensory overload and needs to hide. He's there because he's tired and wanted to sleep. Context is important.
There you go. He's awake now and has joined us for food and Pac-Man, although he's turned Pac-Man off. Is he wearing the blanket as a scarf? Does he not have a scarf?
Yes,
Amazing.
Again, not wearing the blanket to hide from the world, wearing the blanket because he was cold, and because we're human, we forgot to bring his scarf and left it at home because we forgot it gets cold when it gets dark.
He seems a lot more awakened with it.
But would point out we're walking again. And we weren't walking especially for the video, we were walking because it's only a couple of minutes away. And we always walk.
Yeah. Just cold. Yeah.
And I'm full fat doctor.
You all right, Andy? Good.
And he wouldn't say he wasn't all right unless he was all right. Now, thankfully, almost everybody who's watched that video has seen it for what it is, a hugely positive, life-affirming, feel-good story, and that's absolutely what it was. And I think I've addressed a lot of the criticisms of the content of the video as we've gone through. The other thing that I did want to briefly talk about is the other criticism we got is that we shouldn't have been recording it at all. And my response to that, and I've talked about this on the channel before, so those of you who've been around for a while, you can probably come back tomorrow at this point because you probably know what I'm going to say. But I disagree completely that we shouldn't be filming it. I think it's important to raise awareness, share that this is normal behaviour. This is something that lots of other families have to go through. One of the worst things about being in the situation that Anna was in years ago, when she was trapped in the house with Andy all day, every day, and he wouldn't go out and he wouldn't go to school and she couldn't go anywhere with him. The worst part was that she felt completely alone, completely isolated, and felt like she was failing as a parent because of what was happening, because people don't talk about this kind of stuff. You don't see this kind of stuff happen. So it's very easy to think that, well, I must be doing something wrong because otherwise it would be happening to more people. And the most important thing about this video is it shows that this is something that happens, and the amount of people who have now seen it. I mean, it's close to 2 million people on Facebook with this LADbible video. The original YouTube video's got over 1 million views, I think. So it's been out there. It's awareness has been raised, and there have been literally multiple hundreds, if not thousands, of people who've reached out to us over the last several years to tell us their story of themselves or their story of their family and share their experiences and thank us for allowing them to realise that they're not alone. Loads of other people are going through the same thing. And I'm not just talking about this from the parents' point of view. I'm talking about it from Andy's point of view, from the autistic person's point of view as well. We have a lot of autistic people who follow our work, subscribe to the channel, follow us on social media, and love what we do. And I think the comment that I found most frustrating amongst all of the nonsense, and the types of comment that I found most frustrating amongst all of the criticism, and like I say, there wasn't a huge amount, but the most troubling one for me was any comment that started with the autistic community and then one singular autistic person trying to speak for the entire autistic community, because that's not how it works. Just because you've got autism doesn't mean you speak for everybody who has autism, because I speak to people who have autism every single day, and believe it or not, they have different views because they're people. They are individual people, and they don't all have to think the same way. I guess, according to a piece of paper, I'm still considered neurotypical at the moment until my diagnosis comes through. But I don't speak for all neurotypical people. When I'm diagnosed, I won't speak for all autistic people. I will speak for me. So by all means, criticise because something differs from your thoughts and beliefs and the ways you do things. But don't come at me saying the autistic community thinks that, the autistic community doesn't do this, because I've seen the evidence that that's just not the case. There are sections of the community that do things in different ways, and I think it would be a whole lot nicer for everybody if everyone just did their own thing, kept themselves to themselves, raise awareness of their issues when they want, but let other people raise awareness of their issues too, and accept that people can have different ways of doing things and different points of view. Wouldn't it be nice if we could reach that point? But that does bring me to the end of what has been a very, very long video. If you've made it through to the end, kudos, because this has been a long one. And thank you to everyone who has shared the video around, commented on it. It is awesome that we're able to share our message on a platform as big as LADbible. So thank you to them for reaching out to us, contacting us, allowing us to be involved in the editing process and have the creative control over it to make sure that it was done in the way we wanted it to be done. And they did a fantastic job. So thank you to them. Thank you to everyone who supported it, and welcome to the channel. For those of you who are new off the back of it, we'll be back tomorrow with something a little bit different.